John Dome, Idaho.
Hello, everyone. Brenda Daniels, Louisville, Kentucky.
Hey, Brenda, John Dome, Idaho.
Good to see you, John. Hi, Patty. Hello, Robert.
Hey, Brenda.
Hey, Jane.
I'll be
Just text.
mostly in listen only mode. I jumped on to work today.
Got it. Got
Helping
it.
it.
Okay.
Good evening, Brenda and Jane.
Good evening. Good
Hello.
evening.
Hello, Robert.
I'm Patty and John.
Hey, Robert.
It was so good to see everybody Sunday at convention. Always good to
Yes,
see
it
people in
was.
person. Yeah. I'm trying to keep that excitement going from convention because there's enough excitement to last for the whole year, that's for sure. Oh, get my book. Hi, Ken Bloom. Blum,
Howdy, ma'am.
long time no see. Good to see you, Ken.
Yep, glad to be here.
Yay.
There's Robert Bagley.
Yeah. Just getting on. Check in. Where are you calling from?
I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, as you all know.
Mm-hmm. I
Hey,
see our
Brenda, John Maxwell.
fearless leader has joined us.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Evening.
Good evening, John.
Good evening. Good
Evening,
evening.
John.
Jane's at work, so she'll be in and out.
Jim Carroll, Punta Gorda, Florida.
Hi, Jim.
Hi.
I'm gonna find out my background.
So I've got my book's a hardback, but it's 25th anniversary, so it can be challenging for me to catch up, look for the pages that you all are on, that John, you're on, but it's irrelevant.
And
It's kind-
your 25th anniversary for the next chapter 16, like just out of curiosity, what page is that in your book?
All right, hang on, I'll look.
Mine's 207.
207, Ken?
Yes,
Yeah, mine's 193. That's
let me see if this is a new edition or something.
that's
For-
the law
for-
of the Big Mo, right?
The law, yeah, for me, it'd be 207.
This is copyright 2022.
Yeah, I've got the hardback and the 10th anniversary edition. What is the copyright here? Okay.
I've got the
Yeah,
same one you have, John.
Yeah, okay.
So mine's like, a little more modernized per se. Same content, just more relevant.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I think we're pretty close on most of our conversations, and
Oh,
maybe,
absolutely.
yeah, maybe some of the work pages are a little different. We're gonna shift gears for a second, and we're
Sure.
gonna put chapter 16 on hold till next week, so everybody can kind of make a note of that. And the reason is I've gotten quite a few calls on continuing the recap that we really didn't finish from the conference, and a few other calls that I've had come up with the PwC and the corporate office. So anyhow, I thought I'd kind of revisit some of that with everybody.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I think I agree. And I mean, we came out of a good conference with a lot of really positive energy, and I've got a lot to share that really kind of speaks to all our businesses. And just so you know, the notes I always take at these conferences, probably much like your notes, and mine's a little different only because I got 35 years to reflect on being in the industry. But the notes I take is what I can highlight, how I can not just feed the team, but everything from my perspective too is when I'm recruiting somebody and I'm talking about our opportunity, obviously, and the benefits in general. So I think we're recording. Let's just jump in, and you guys raise your hand or something if you want me to, add to it, or if maybe I get ahead and you want me to slow down and say it again. But as I kind of went through it, there was just a whole host of things we hadn't covered. And there's a couple of things I'm probably going to just highlight again, but it's just too important with us going into 2025 and, the 4 regionals that are coming up, how we've kind of switched out the 10 core commitments and moved toward PAVE, as well as the regionals and leading into really next year for anybody and everybody, including people that aren't on the team yet, to take advantage of just the opportunity and what we're doing. So I'm going to just highlight this and reflect. You've heard me say documentation beats conversation. 700 ring earners, 300 millionaire club members, 400 six-figure ring earners, and a big one here, just in conversations when you get into the opportunity and the comp plan, there aren't many companies that can boast anything like this, obviously, but 30,000 associates receiving residual income. So pretty powerful when people are maybe looking for a plan B, or people are looking to divest from maybe one energy into a new energy, or whatever it might be. And then, this one's been happening for us for quite a while, but $1 billion paid to associates in the last decade. So, that's over $100 million a year in commissions being paid to 1099 associates, people like you and I. Pretty powerful stuff. In listening to Kai and spending some time with Kai Deering, who's one of the regional vice presidents on the West Coast, and I'm gonna hit this from two sides, but we came out of an interesting post-COVID, where everybody kind of cocooned and sheltered in place, and you can still see how that carried over even to today, where companies are still trying to get employees back to work. There's a lot of empty commercial space out there because employees have decided, geez, I just want to stay remote. Well, we all understand why you want to stay remote, because you get a hell of a lot less done for the most part than you do when you're sitting there on the job, in your cubicle per se. Now, it's not everybody, but y'all kind of get my drift. What's critical for us is we've got to understand the power of in-person. Maybe it's sit downs, maybe it's PBRs, maybe it's the three ways, the Paneras, sit down like that, the Super Saturdays. We are really all, what's the word I want to say? We are all really designed for community. I mean, I love it when we end up on Sunday with our breakout. I love it when I see the team. I love it hanging out and catching up. During the conference, hey, it's pretty crazy. We don't have a lot of time to catch up, and we're going to fix that in New Orleans. We're going to have an event where we've got a specific place just for the team to get together, for maybe some food and beverage and stuff like that. But during the event, it's kind of hard to have that intimate connect one-on-one, because we're trying to spend it with the new people. We're trying to spend it with maybe people we haven't had that much time with, painting the picture, creating the vision. But that is what we're designed for, community. Zooms are okay. Don't get me wrong. The three-way calls are critical. Okay. Don't get me wrong on any of that. I just had a conference call with Mike and Mindy Rogers, with Brielle and I and some of our group folks today. And I can just give it to you from a business solutions perspective. If you're doing an enrollment and you're in person, your participation is a lot more than what your participation is if you're doing it on a Zoom. You can still get participation from a Zoom. You can still cast the vision and give the mission and create the benefits on a Zoom, not a problem, especially when it comes to our membership, but creating really the big picture on the opportunity. Just understand, as many of you already do, but helping your team understand, we're in a relationship business. Robert, you had your hand up. Fire away.
John, I'm going to challenge your statement that people who work from home get less done. In my experience in corporate America, it ended up being far too many meetings that interrupted my projects that I was trying to get done. And those meetings went on often without an agenda, and they were just a plain pain in the rear end. So,
Robert, I don't disagree with you one bit. And in my stint in corporate America, you're right. There were way too many meetings. There's no doubt about it. What I'm saying in general is the W-2 world at home isn't quite as productive as what we see in the 1099 entrepreneurial world. You and I understand one thing in the 1099 world is that we have to kill in the morning to be able to eat at night. The W-2 world doesn't really care because they got a check at the end of the week. So in general, I'm just saying that all distractions are equal. Even for some of my 1099 friends who sleep in a little bit too much, spend a little bit too much time on social media. I think we all got the picture. So, I don't disagree, but the 1099 folks understand life a little bit differently than the W-2 people. And point well taken. Just a note for everybody, just expectations. I love Jason Benji's story, $250,000 ring earner. His first event, 37 days into the business, he had 11 people that went with him. Make a note to yourself, never go to an event by yourself, but you all get that. Make sure your new associates get that. 11 people went with him to his first event. Out of those 11, only half are still here today. All right. Just understand, we need to set realistic expectations, and the people that you start with aren't the people you're going to necessarily end with. And that's okay. And that's something that we should really come to understand. Our business has very little overhead. We have very little overhead. And I like what Jason talked about, because if you treat this like a business, he said, what I do is I'm the sponsor, and I'll do a charcuterie board, one of those cheese, ham, charcuterie boards. And why do I do that? Because the sponsor can tell their story. Kind of thought that was a good perspective. You can always tell your story when you bring a charcuterie board. All right. It does not matter how you do your event. It does not matter how you do your event. Just do the event. Back to what I've said, you guys are probably tired of it. Ignorance on fire is better than knowledge on ice. All right. Okay. Here's a good question. And Jane or Brenda, you guys bless me and you help me dearly. Next week, as we go into the 16th chapter of the book we're doing with Maxwell, I want to do this too. Is what story inspired you to make a big decision? So what story out of the event, or what story inspired you to make a big decision? The next question is New Orleans. What will you commit to? I think it's pretty powerful. So I'm not here to tell you guys how to create your story or write your book. I'll do everything I can to be the biggest cheerleader in the world and come alongside you. I'll do 3 ways all week with you. I'll meet you. I'll run with you. I'll make the next move with you. But it's still going to be your story. So what story inspired you to make a big decision? And regards to New Orleans, 1 year from now, what are you willing to commit to? All right. Good. Jane and Brenda, don't let me forget that next week. Okay. As a matter of fact, maybe Brenda, I'll just hand it to you and you can kind of host that part when we kick it off. How's that?
Dandy.
Andy. I know you, girl. I should have said that before you did. All right. Houston, July 18th to the 20th. Indianapolis, August 22nd to the 24th. Anaheim, September 14th. College Park, October 24th.
I've already got my room booked for Houston.
Good girl. All right. That's awesome. Have you got a goal for who you're taking with you?
I do. I'm talking to people in Houston.
Good. And you're taking inventory of what team you have to see if anybody else has a goal to go with you. Perfect. Okay. These super regionals have been put back in play after a lot of Platinum World Council members kind of forcing the company's hand. Warren said it best at the conference. We did things so well that we just stopped doing them. And John Addison actually said it to Warren. And I mean, I take accountability of that in my own business. I had things that worked so well, I stopped doing them. And I'm like, why did I stop doing that? So these regionals are building events for you and I into New Orleans. So a day at a time, a brick at a time, a day at a time, a brick at a time. And you're thinking every conversation. So put this in your notes. LDP, DMO. And I could reverse it, DMO, LDP. LDP stands for long distance package. We don't have to do long distance packages like we did 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago, where we actually spent $15 to overnight a VHS video or cassette video to somebody, because technology today saves you and I a ton of money and moves in nanoseconds. Your daily method of operation should be a conversation around one long distance package every day. Every single, if you're, and we're going to talk about PAVE in a minute, but if you're committed to 2 a day, every conversation should also be, who do you know in Houston? Actually, that's really dumb on my part. That's my bad. Who do you know in Texas? Dallas is in proximity to Houston, Austin, San Antonio, Waco, Beaumont, Texas, Corpus Christi. All of that is in a direct proximity to Houston. Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? Well, I don't know anybody. Well, I don't know anybody. Well, I don't know anybody. And then somebody's going to eventually say, you know what? My sister's in the oil industry and she's sick and tired of working with Schlumberger. She's looking for a plan B. Let's talk to her. Bingo. All right. Just put into your daily method of operation the idea of a long distance package. We don't do it. Just go to Prospect by Legal Shield. Boom. Get the email address. Send that link. Okay. You got a little package going on. All right. The testimonials of some of the ring earners. Why is this critical? Because you're going to meet somebody like a Dave Hall. You're going to meet, what's his background? A stay-at-home dad. $300,000 ring earner. You're going to meet a stay-at-home dad or even a stay-at-home mom. Steve Baker. Why is Steve Baker $500,000 ring earner story special? Because you're going to meet a painter. You're going to meet a sheetrock hanger. You're going to meet an electrician. You're going to meet somebody in HVAC. You're going to meet somebody who's sick and tired of being sick and tired. Steve Baker came to the United States with $640 to his name. Came to America with $640 to his name. He was 38 years old when he started Legal Shield. He was a painter for 17 years, making an average of $25,000 a year. So what a great story. Let that be something that you have in your journal, that when you're prospecting, you see somebody who likes solutions, somebody who gets excited about the B2B side, Jennifer McClaffrey, Mike and Mindy Rogers, you know, let alone Lisa and John Schiller, Brielle Hoffman, Tracy Katz, Cheryl Garcia, Tony Petrill, all on our team. All those stories are opportunities for you to say, you know what? I have a business partner who was a flight attendant for an airline. Her and her husband now make $400,000 a year, John Lisa Schiller. Okay. We have a business partner, had zero business experience. She's the youngest Millionaire Club member in the history of this 50-year-old company. Her name's Brielle Hoffman Krause. Okay. These are all your business partners. And I got more to add to that. I mean, you can talk about the gal washing dishes up there in Kentucky who made $50,000 in her first, I think, 27 days. You know, I don't have her name and I don't know where my notes are on that. But anyhow, PAVE. I would encourage you, if you want to keep the business really simple and help your team keep it simple, just build your business plan around PAVE. The old 10 core commitments are out. I'm glad, not because they weren't good, they were very good, but if you were to ask me to name all 10 core, I could name 3, 4, 5, 6, but I might not hit all 10. PAVE is very easy to explain. We had 2 different groups of people with tremendous experience working on how do we simplify and how do we make the 10 core better, and how do we get consistent in our communications globally around, you know, PAVE. personal development, activity, vision, and events. That's what PAVE stands for. P is personal development, A is activity, V is vision, E is events. Then what did we do? We just broke it down to daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. So for each one of us, part-time or full-time, daily is what? 15 minutes of personal development. Each one of us can commit to 10 pages of a good book, a devotion, an audio, anything, right? I actually commit to more of that. I'll start my morning in that with just an attitude of gratitude, being thankful. And then I can finish my night off with just something that just feeds my mind in a positive way. Dave Savola's talked about it for years. I'm a big believer that it should be more than 2 a day, but 2 a day. 2 a day, 2 a day, 2 a day. If you're full-time, you do more than 2 a day. If you're part-time, a minimum of 2 a day. And the most important part is follow-up. So personal development, 2 a day, that's our daily. Weekly is just the biz ops, the briefings. If it's not a briefing, executive luncheon. If it's not an executive luncheon, you've got your sit downs, you're working to just get in front of people so they can see you and they can see your energy, your excitement, and the things that you're doing with Legal Shield. Monthly, the Super Saturdays, the ability to reset goals, and annually is just the international conference. That's the whole idea around PAVE. I don't need to look at notes. I don't need to have anything else. It's just part of, who we are, what we do, and what we have a consistency in communication with. If Jane is talking about it with her team, she can rest assured I'll be talking about the same thing. So when her new associate hears it, they're going to hear the same thing from me that they just heard from Jane. We're just edifying that whole process. Okay. Just a statistic, 50% of all sales today are coming from individuals that have less than 2 years in the business. If that doesn't speak to new blood, I don't know what does. All right. 50% of all sales coming from our business today are individuals with less than 2 years in the business. All right. Commissions are obviously growing. One of the other things that we've tried to solve for are the fast start trainings. And post-COVID, the qualification of people, fast start qualifying went down. Again, it just speaks to being remote. So how do we get the fast start qualifying up? We've done a lot of things to clear that up. And you can go to LegalShieldCalendar.com or your back office, and you can get a list of all the trainings that are taking place. I encourage all of you, do like I do, go through a couple of those yourself. I do because I tie it into what we do at Shield Nation. I tie it into our culture, our ebook. I tie it into the Habits Workbook, and I tie it into our onboarding. But you can see here that the new Fast Start training classes launched 2 weeks ago, and there is a virtual section. Look, if you're like Brenda and Ken, maybe up in the Louisville market, and there isn't one in the Louisville market, then you can find one virtually. I get it. All right. In Knoxville, we don't have one here, so I either go virtually or I plug into Nashville or maybe over to Charlotte if I want to drive over there. Okay. I don't want to drive, so I plug in virtually. But if I've got a new person and I have to plug them in virtually, I'm going to do it with them. All right. I'm going to do it 2 by 2. All the bonuses are still in place for the people that attend virtually and hit their fast start qualification mark. If they attend in person, they've doubled the bonuses. So just please be aware of that, because there are people who are serious about the business getting started, and they'll want to double their bonuses by making maybe a 2 or 3 hour drive and plugging in virtually. And I'm going to help to encourage them to do that. All right. Everything's in the back office. All right. Let's just see here. Any questions on anything before I keep going? Oh, another good story. I thought, and it was Don Thompson's story, and Don really kind of laid it into the only difference with him and others is just action. With the plan of action, well, let me just say this. You've heard me say it, life rewards deserve, not need, but his first year was $1,000 in commissions. His second year was $12,000 in commissions. Now this is Don, so now you got the president of the company. All right. But his comment was, I never stopped taking action. And today he's 400,000 and president of Legal Shield. It's just a great story. Just another great story, just another great testimonial in respect to, the people we're going to see and the people we're going to be prospecting. Warren said it best because he spoke to every single one of us, helping more people more often and in more ways. Go ahead, Bridget.
John, with the Don Thompson story, a lot of people would have quit with that story because it was year after year after year, and he was just expecting so much more income. But he knew that it would finally happen, and it did.
Yeah, absolutely, Bridget. And I mean, it's not just Don's story.
I know,
Yeah.
but his was
Right.
a lot of people would have quit.
Well, I recruited a guy named Gary Teal in Muskegon, Michigan. This was when I first got in the business, who didn't do a doggone thing. And I finally went back through his warm market list and I said, hey, tell me about some of these people who you have as 4 and 5 and 6-star generals. And I said, who's this guy, Gardy Clausen? He goes, oh, well, you don't want to talk to Gardy. He's my fly fishing buddy up in Traverse City. I said, why don't I want to talk to Gardy? Because I taught you, Gary, never prejudge. Now, Gary really never did anything in the business. And this goes to the Don Thompson story and Bridget's comments. He goes, well, he's been bankrupt. He's started 7 businesses and he's been bankrupt like 3 times. I said, wow, Gary, that's the exact person I wanted to stop with, because he doesn't quit. He's going to continue to engage until he finds something that he can really build.
Amen. Yep.
I drove up, sat down with Gardy. It was $5,000 to come into that company at the time. That's how everybody got started. It was NSA. Gardy came on board, introduced me to Mike and Kathy Duvall, who introduced me to Jerry and Nancy Kropa in Traverse City, Michigan. Jerry's father had the largest orchards of Marciano cherries in the world. Jerry introduces me to the guy who brought DHL to Brussels, Belgium. He introduces me to Freddie Berluce, who started the first regional airline in Maastricht, Netherlands, who entered it. And we built in 7 countries, all because Gary Teal, who didn't do anything in Muskegon, I went through his warm market list, met Gardy Clausen. Gardy Clausen didn't end up doing anything. He came on board, but we got some of the $15 VHS videos out to his warm market. Mike and Kathy Duvall come on our team. Still friends today. They're national marketing directors with that company. Jerry and Nancy Kropa are national marketing directors with that company. It's just, right? It's just, it's just.
And that's what makes it fun. You got to make it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Bridget, it wasn't fun in the beginning.
Oh, I know.
Gary Teal would show up at our Super Saturday events in hiking boots, a pair of shorts, and I'm like, Gary, at least put a sport jacket on.
Well, John, I remember when you had to stop and go into a public phone booth to make a call on a Sunday night to us. I remember those days. I do.
Remember those days?
Yeah.
I remember one day on the side of Highway 80 in Illinois, an hour from Darcy's parents' house, being in a phone booth in a blizzard, putting my quarters in to do my Sunday call, not realizing that I got drifted in and had to put more quarters in to get my family's attention to come get me out of the phone booth because I was snowed in.
Oh my God.
Anyhow.
Yeah.
Let's just wrap up here. So I've got a couple more minutes. The things we've been talking about, and Warren brought it up. You know, he brought up the power of the lid. He brought up the power of the law. Seems like he's been listening to us. The power of the law is everything to do with Legal Shield, and it just puts back in our lap the opportunity to be non-negotiable in who we are and what we do. The power of the law, a powerful force defining our life in this world. The color of justice is green. If you don't know your rights, you don't have them. And it just goes to show you that, I mean, here's a guy who came on board not knowing really what to expect, but now has his whole family showing up so he can show them who you guys are and what it is we do. To think that he had his son and his wife and then his other son there because he just couldn't explain it to them around the Thanksgiving table. They had to see it in person. And when they came and saw the energy and what it was we were doing, they became pretty passionate for supporting their dad and everything that we do. You know, Legal Shield has an answer to those seeking peace of mind. 150 million Americans with legal problems. We put the law back into the hands of people who deserve. You know, it's just pretty cool to hear those words that really kind of equate to the DNA of Harlan Stonecipher, and words you and I have always known, you know, from the beginning. Please don't get like so many people who get jaded or take things for granted. Understand that people want and need to hear the Legal Shield story. People want and need to hear about this opportunity. I'm encouraging you to stop walking by them and having that courage to step up and share it with them. I would like to hope next year every one of you have a commitment to be wherever the next trip is. Punta Cana, that's it. Punta Cana, if I'm saying it right. Yeah, there it is. This is really a fairly easy qualification, guys and gals. So I would love to be hanging out with you all, you know, at these. That's ultimately what I look to do is, you know, associate and find who's on the team that's there. We set the dinners up, we do the excursions, and we just hang out and have a good time. If you need to go to the back office and understand it and look at it again, do so. If you're not going to commit to it, you're not going to promote it with your team. And I would encourage you to promote it with your team, because a lot of people can and will qualify through hit and win. It's very simple. Hit and win for network and for solutions. May through February, it's just 10 months. The most important part is you have to fast start qualify for 10 months. Easy to do, easy not to do. But you have to fast start qualify. So you can't miss fast start, or you have to Performance Club qualify for 10 months. So you got to Performance Club qualify in May. All right. And that's the foundation of how we build. There's nothing new here. It's 15 personal recruits. If you get a slower start on that, no problem. You can catch up June, July, August, September, October, November, into May. All right. 3 of those have to fast start qualify. So 3 out of 15 have to fast start qualify. Not a big deal. But PC qualify all 10 months with a 65% retention. So all the details are in the back office. All right. Let the company pay for an all-inclusive trip for you and a friend, you and a spouse, whatever it is. All right. So that's really kind of it. I've got a few more on this, you know, and one of the other ones is, you know, don't justify the opportunity. I've never done it. It's been a non-negotiable with me. I don't justify a $49 startup. I don't justify, you know, $37.95 a month for a legal plan. I don't justify, you know, in-person training or a virtual training for Fast Start. I don't justify the fact that you need to expense your company and get to the international conference. I don't justify that you need to get into Super Saturdays and you've got some business expenses that go with it. You know, just non-negotiable. The people that will whine about the little things are the same people who get up every day, drive that same damn road to the proverbial treadmill that they're on as a rat in a cubicle that they've sat in for 20 years, hating life, not getting paid what they're worth. Doesn't seem they'll whine about that, but they'll want to whine about, oh, it's $49 to get started. Oh, anyhow, anybody else have anything else they want to kind of add into any of this? And short and sweet, and we'll get back into our chapters with Maxwell next week.
John?
Yeah.
John, Ted
Yeah,
Wilson, would you give me those numbers again besides 300 millionaire club members? The other
Yep,
two?
I will give those to you. 700 ring earners, 300 millionaire club members, 400 six-figure ring earners, 30,000 associates receiving residual income, and 1 billion paid to associates the last decade.
Thank you.
Yep. Juwan, go ahead.
All right, can you hear me clearly?
I can now.
Yeah, I just wanted to I didn't want to be redundant, but I do want to concur with what you said earlier about the importance of live events. And I'm just a firm believer that you can enroll memberships via Zoom. You can even get a person to become an associate, a partner via Zoom. But that the live events create the social evidence. The live events, people like to kick the tires. They want to shake your hand. They want to look you in the eyeballs. They want to see the way you move. It's like being at a concert. I mean, you're just not going to get the same experience, right? For me, when I was growing up, going to Erykah Badu concert was it. The entire place rocked and rolled. It was an experience like no other. And it's just not the same watching it on Instagram or watching it on Zoom. You just don't get the vibration. You don't get the energy. You don't get the excitement. You don't get the enthusiasm. 90% of all human communication is nonverbal. And you just don't get that via Zoom. And so I just wanted to concur with you. When I look at, for me, it was fascinating when they shared that statistic during convention about how few individuals actually stuck around during that time when they were recruited. Because, I have about 7 or 8 people who did stick around during that period of time. But I'll tell you the one thing that we all had in common is we all met in Ann Arbor in person because people in Ann Arbor refused to stay in their homes. They refused to stay locked in. They hung out anyway. And all of them, we all met there. We either traveled from Southfield, Detroit, some of the suburbs, the Detroit metropolitan area, and we all met in Ann Arbor, and they're still here. And I firmly believe it's because we had a chance to shake hands, break bread together, talk to each other. They got to see the level of commitment I exhibited as well as some of my partners. And, I can't say that enough. And the $49, like when you said that, that just triggered me. It's like, man, my MailChimp account for like my other business is like $160 a month. And if $49 scares you, you can't put a lemonade stand in front of your house for $49. Let's be real. Like the ingredients to buy the lemonade, you can't put it in front of your house for $49. And how many lemonades would you have to flip to get the money back? It's like, I almost wish it would go back to $249. I'm so honest. I really do. I wish it would go back to $249 because back then you made the monetary decision and you pay attention to what you pay for. So $49 scares someone. I mean, it's not to be cruel or unempathetic, but maybe you don't really cut out for entrepreneurship. And that's just kind of the attitude I have. And I don't say that to people, but when I'm looking them in the eyeballs and they say something silly like that, they get the picture real quick.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And yeah, I was amazed. I guess I really wasn't amazed, but when Don or Warren shared the numbers of how many people, associates came on board in 2020, 2021, 2022, and even 2023 per se, you know, the amount of the people who are still around was like nothing. It was negligible. You're just like, wow. But I mean, it really registered, Juan, to what we're talking about here, because thank God you guys were willing to connect in Ann Arbor, you know, and have, you know, the in-person get-togethers, because that's truly where connections are made. And you know, that's the group that stuck around. That's the group that's still with you today. So, you know, I love the connections. I love it because you get to see things and ask things and do things, you know, that kind of really resonate with the human spirit that is done in person, that isn't done, you know, virtually per se. So good stuff, man. Anybody else? And we'll wrap it up. Y'all are an easy group tonight. So I hope you got that. This has been recorded. It will be posted. And Ted, if you need those numbers again, you can get it on the recording. It's within the first 5 minutes, so you got it, man.
We appreciate you, John.
All right, I appreciate y'all. I'll talk to y'all soon.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Give our love to
Good, John.
Darcy.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good night.
John.
Appreciate you. Bye.
Thank you. Okay.